friends, and welcome back to my homestead. Today we're in the kitchen again because we're making fast food. Fast food, you say? Really? What does that mean? I mean that when in abundance today of all of this produce right now in the summer, I'm going to be preparing ready-to-eat meals that will be stored away. And then in the winter or in the fall or next spring or maybe even next summer, you come home from school, you come home from work and you're tired and you don't want to cook anything. You're like, what's for lunch? What's for dinner? You open your pantry, you grab a jar of already made tomato soup and you have fast food. That's what I call fast food. So I have gathered this beautiful big pile of tomatoes just last night and I washed them all today, and I'm gonna turn this big pile of tomatoes into tomato soup. Now there's so many different recipes of tomato soup, and some of them call for flour as a thickener, and now it's not a flour, it's something else, clear gel or something like that. I don't use any of that. And then you might ask me, well, hey, Mama Lil, why can't I go and buy a can of soup at the store? It's also ready to eat. Just pop it open and warm it up. And you know, you're right. However, if you can read all of those ingredients in the back and you know what they do to your body, then more power to you. I don't like to eat that stuff and I don't like to feed it to my family. So today I'm gonna make a very simple recipe with very delicious, simple things from my garden, such as carrots and onions. I still need to peel those bad boys, and it's gonna be delicious. Okay, so so let me show you what ingredients we're gonna need and how much. Now, as always, I am making a double or even a triple batch here because I have one of these gigantic pots in the back that can fit a lot. But let me show you what will call for one batch of tomato soup for canning. Okay, we're going to need 8 quarts of tomatoes, and I like to chop them up in large big chunks and measure them. 8 quarts of tomato. Then we're gonna need 4 to 5 medium-sized onion. Now don't laugh, but this is the onion that I grew this year, and that's a whole another video to discuss the mistake I made. So look how little and cute they are. But anyway, 4 to 5 medium-sized onions, but I have a whole bunch. Okay, then we're gonna need 3 carrots. It's gonna be good because it's gonna add to that sweetness. 1 small bunch of celery. Now, if you don't like celery, you can omit that altogether, but it does add a little something to it. Then I'm gonna use a whole clove of garlic. Now, the vegetables that I have right now, I'm gonna chop them into big chunks, and I'm gonna roast them in the oven on the cookie sheet at 375-degree oven for about 40 minutes. Just don't burn anything. But let me tell you, that roasted vegetable taste adds a totally different flavor and aroma to the soup. Okay, then what other things we're gonna need? We're gonna need 1 quart of chicken stock, and if you don't have homemade like mine, you can always use store-bought or make fresh. Then this is a 6 ounce of tomato paste. And remember how I mentioned that I'm not going to be using any kind of flour to thicken it? Well, something has to thicken it. Tomato paste is going to help you to thicken it. 1 cup of sugar, 1 teaspoon of pepper, crushed black pepper, or you can add more or less depending to your taste. And then salt. As far as salt, you really need to taste it and to your taste. I'm probably going to put about a tablespoon or so, but then again, I'm going to taste it as it keeps cooking. And then my aromatic. And let me tell you, I have a lot here. I haven't washed it yet. I just brought it in from outside. And I have basil, fresh basil of 2 different kinds. I have fresh oregano, Look at this beautiful oregano, and it's already blossoming, but I'm going to be using these beautiful leaves. This is fresh rosemary. Oh, there's nothing like it. I'm going to put this in whole branches just like this while it's cooking, and then I will remove it. I'm not going to can it. And then I just want to test this out. It's going to be my experiment, so I don't know how it's going to work out. But I'm going to put tiny little sprig of fresh tarragon. It's French tarragon, and I want to see how it goes. So this is experimental. It's not part of the recipe, but I'm just going to experiment. So these are my ingredients. Did I mention wine? No, I did not. I'm going to use half a cup of white wine. Half a cup of white wine. So let me show you. I'm going to be chopping things. I'm going to be roasting things. So let me show you how I do my tomato soup for my pantry, fast food. So I'm chopping things up in a large kind of pieces because it doesn't have to be all perfect. This is going to roast, and then it's all going to be processed into a nice smooth paste that's going to go into the soup. So I already chopped up the onion. I'm chopping up the onion. Already chopped up the celery and carrots, and I'm going to put the garlic all onto this baking sheet. I do like to line my baking sheets with parchment paper because it is an aluminum cookie sheet, and to be honest with you, that's the last thing I want is more aluminum in me. So I'm going to try to avoid that, and that's why I like to line it. Well, hopefully all of my onion will fit into this cookie sheet. So give me a minute. So I'm just going to drizzle a little bit of olive oil so nothing sticks and burns, and just a little bit. I'm not even measuring it. I have no idea how much is going to go in there. And this is going to go into the oven for at 375 degrees for about 40 minutes. But I'm going to keep checking on it because I don't want anything to burn, but I do want a little bit of that color because it's going to add that extra layer of flavor to the soup. Okay, so my vegetables are roasting, but in the meanwhile, I chopped up all of my tomatoes into big chunks, probably like, I don't know, 1.5 inches or so. And I'm going to be softening them up in my large pot, but I don't want anything to burn. So I'm just going to cover the bottom with a little bit of water, which for me, it took about half a cup, but for you, maybe less or more. So it's up to you how much you want to use. And I'm going to put all of my tomatoes in here. Wish me all luck. I don't want to make a mess. Goodness gracious. There it is. And I'm going to just bring it to boil and cook for a little bit until my other vegetables are done, because this is going to soften things up. And I'm going to stir this once in a while because I don't want anything to burn, because it's going to help when we process everything together. It's going to soften up and it's going to help to make everything nice and smooth, the tomato soup smooth. Okay, so our tomatoes have stewed on the stove for about 20-25 minutes, and we have only a few more minutes left on the roasting of the vegetables. I'm going to be putting everything through a food mill because I want to separate the skins and the seeds. Now, you may choose to pulverize it all together right now, and it will be fine and will be delicious. But I'm going to try to get rid of skins and seeds. So this machine is going to make a little bit of a noise, so I may mute this. But this is a standard addition to KitchenAid that I'm using, which is a food mill. Okay, so all of the vegetables have roasted nicely and they got much softer, and there's a beautiful aroma right now. So I'm gonna put everything in a food processor to get it all even consistency, and I will add it to the tomato sauce that we already created. And along with that, I will also pulverize all of my herbs as well. So give me a minute. I'm gonna try to do this all in one shot. Wish me luck, because I don't want to make a mess in my kitchen. Oh! I think I overfilled it. Yeah, I definitely did. I definitely did. All right, well, let's try this one. It's gonna make a noise, so I will mute you for a minute. Okay, so everything is nicely pulverized and soft, and I'm gonna add it to my sauce right now, because that's one of the reasons how my tomato soup will be nice and thick, because of all these vegetables. And I don't want us to confuse this as a VA juice, because it's not VA juice, because we're not putting all of those chemicals that are normally in that product. So we're just putting all of these vegetables, and I have not pulverized my garlic. I will do that together with all the herbs. Okay, so I'm putting all of the garlic, roasted garlic that I have roasted it right in its shell, and it's comes right easily right out. Some of them more than easier than others, but a whole head of garlic, and it smells heavenly. All right, I'm gonna pulverize it together with my herbs. So I'm gonna stir everything up, and I'm gonna add all of my other ingredients at this point, and I'm gonna let this cook for about half an hour and see the consistency. I'm gonna cook this open, uncovered, because I want the extra liquid to evaporate if possible, so it will make my soup a little thicker. So let me add the rest of my ingredients. I have my tomato paste. I'm gonna add that now. Okay, I'm gonna add my chicken stock that we made from our homegrown chickens. All right, now I'm gonna be putting some wine, but you may omit this if you don't want to use any alcohol. That's perfectly fine. Just whatever amount you not using of wine, which is half a cup, you need to replace that with chicken stock. Okay, I'm gonna be adding the sugar now. And I'm gonna put is this a tablespoon? I can't say. Yes. I'm gonna be putting a tablespoon of salt, but I am sure to taste this later. And this is about a teaspoon of black crushed pepper. All right, so let me stir everything up. It looks beautiful. So I have the tomato paste. I've got to stir very well. And I'm going to cook this for about half an hour. And I'm going to stir it every few minutes because I don't want anything to burn to the bottom. It smells heavenly. It's just to think about it. We're cooking fast food. I know, huh? The kids may not understand what that means, because they think of fast food drive-up window. I made this beautiful bouquet of herbs. It's rosemary and a little bit of tarragon. I tied them together with a string, and I'm gonna just put this inside because it will be easier for me to fish it out when I don't need it. So it's gonna sit here, and when I'm done, I'll pull it out, but it will leave the flavor in the soup. Okay, so this bad boy's been cooking for half an hour, and I'm gonna remove this bouquet of herbs, as my daughter calls it, tea bag of herbs. So which was attached to a string, which makes it very convenient. So it's out. All right, so I'm stirring this up. I've tasted it, and I had my family taste it, and they all agreed that I needed to add a little bit more of salt and a little bit more of pepper. So I added 1 teaspoon more of pepper and almost a full tablespoon of salt. Again, please taste it, because salt and pepper should always be to taste. All right, so the cooking time is done, and come closer, take a look. Look how much thicker everything got. So this is tomato soup. I'm going to be jarring everything into my quart jars that I washed in hot soapy water But because it's going to be pressure canned, I do not have to sterilize these jars. I'm going to be using a pressure canner. It's getting ready. The water's sitting there boiling for me. Okay, so I need to start bottling all of my beautiful, beautiful tomato. I'm going to keep cooking this tomato soup. So now, how do we eat tomato soup? You probably can make it more creamier by adding cream, literally heavy cream or half and half, or light cream. Excuse me, just gonna grab this. But my family has Slavic roots, and guess what we like to do? We add sour cream. We add sour cream to everything. Okay, so I'm gonna leave 1 inch of headspace. And again, just to review what a headspace means, it's the space between the top of the liquid and the top of the jar. I'm not going to debubble this because guess what? This is liquid, so there's nothing to debubble. All right, but I'm going to keep filling them all up, and then I'm going to show you how I'm going to use my canner. These are quart jars, and to put a cover on, there is a little V where I have to match up with the V on a handle. So here it is. Hopefully I can do this from the first shot, and then lock it and it closes. Okay, so I have the full heat on, and here's my vent. I'm going to watch for the vent to produce steady steam. And I know that this little popper is going to pop up just like a turkey popper. It's going to pop up and it's going to show me that the steam has built inside. So I'm going to wait for this continuous steam to come through like a little pillar. And I'm going to turn my timer on for 10 minutes. So I'm going to wait for that to start producing steam. So I'll meet you in a few minutes. Okay, so you probably cannot see the steam, the steady steam that's coming from the vent, and I don't want to put my hand anywhere close to that because I don't want to burn myself. But this little popper popped, and it's at the top. So I'm going to set the timer for 10 minutes, and I'm going to allow this to vent for 10 minutes before I attach my weight to it. Okay, so the timer just went off. It's been steaming for 10 minutes at a steady steam, and it's time now for me to add my weight. Now for my elevation, I know that it requires 10 pounds of pressure. This may be different for where you live, so please do research to know exactly how many pounds you need to use for your pressure canning. So I'm going to be applying very carefully. And now I'm going to wait until I see nice and steady fluttering of the pound valve. It usually takes a few minutes, and once I see that, I'm going to set my timer for 30 minutes. Now, why do I put it for 30 minutes? So there's a lot of low acid foods that were put in a soup, but plus I added chicken broth. And because of that, it requires 30 minutes of pressure canning. I'm just waiting for my valve to begin to rattle in a nice steady rhythm. It usually takes a few minutes. Okay, look at this bad boy. Do you see him rattling? Okay, so that's nice and steady rattling. And I'm going to set my timer for 30 minutes. All right, I'll see you back in 30 minutes. I'm not going to lower the heat. It's going to keep going as is to produce that steady rattle. Okay, the timer just went off. That means at this point I'm going to turn off the heat. I'm going to turn off the heat. However, I am not going to remove the weight. I am not going to take the cover off. None of that. I'm going to wait until my canner. Let me just turn off the timer. I'm going to wait for my canner to completely stop doing all of this. So the rattling of the weight will stop. This little thing right here, the little popper, will fall down. It will show that the pressure inside the canner has calmed down. Now, if possible, it is a good idea to move it to a place on my stove where there is not hot, but the canner is so heavy I can't lift it, so I'm going to leave it right there. And I'm going to wait for it to calm down and to cool off, and I'm not going to remove that pounds off the top at all until everything calms down. That's going to ensure that the jars will not crack, the liquid will not leak out of the jars, and it's going to have a nice seal. So this may take a while. It's getting late, so I am going to just wait for everything to kind of sort of calm down, and then I'll show you the finished product. Okay, so since I turned off the heat, about half an hour passed, and just now this little popper went down. That means the pressure inside the canner has reduced. So let me see if I can move this off. So now I took the weight off, and notice how there's no hissing of any kind. All right, so at this point, I'm going to open the canner very carefully. And when you open the canner, always open away from you so there is no steam into your face. Okay, so I'm not going to take them out just yet. I'm just going to let them sit here for about a minute. There's a lot of boiling still going on inside those jars. Let me show you. There's still a lot of boiling going on inside of those jars. Do you guys see that? This is why we needed that 1 inch of headspace. Okay, because if we didn't, it would be a lot of overboiling. So I'm going to let them sit for a few more minutes and let them cool off just a little bit. Okay, so here are our 7 quarts of tomato soup all done. And there's still a little bit of bubbling going on, but not much. Anyway, now you may ask me, come on, how is this fast food? And I'm telling you again, it may have taken a little while to prepare this, but basically we have 14 dinners here. We have, for 14 people, we have dinner. And because it takes about 2 portions per 1 quart. Okay, friends, so canning of tomato soup is complete. And I hope you are encouraged to preserve and put the food away for the future. It may be a little time consuming today, but in a few months it will become fast food when it's available to you, and you can crack the jar open anytime, warm it up, and serve it to your family with crackers, with nice toasted bread, or even cheese grilled sandwiches, something like that. Kids love that. Anyway, I hope you are encouraged. Please, if you like my videos, please subscribe, please share, and I hope you try something new.